Good morning. Happy Friday. This week has flown by. There's three things I want to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is News Now Houston. Earl David Warden, whose YouTube name is a complete lie because he doesn't talk about news. He doesn't talk about things that are happening now. He doesn't even live in fucking Houston. And he certainly wasn't talking about a Houston incident when he mentioned a Border Patrol agent hitting a Native American man with his vehicle. He put it up there, obviously he's just trying to direct traffic to his monetized News Now community channel. And it wasn't his content. It was somebody else's content. But he was asking, with this attempted murder, is the Border Patrol agent going to get away with it? Do you think the Border Patrol is going to allow the agent to be prosecuted? I think is his actual question, which, if you took a couple seconds to look, considering this happened in 2018 and the Border Patrol agent has already pled guilty to and been sentenced for the actions, well, there you go. For those of you who are interested and not wanting to watch Earl's video, the Border Patrol agent it was in 2018. He hit a Native American man who just suffered minor bruising as a result. The Border Patrol agent was suspended pending the investigation. Then he was charged. He pled guilty to hit and run. The amount of time that was offered to him in the plea bargain was 6 months of probation. The judge said, no, F that. You get 3 years of probation. Come on. I don't know what you're trying to eat, but you're not going to eat it. So he got 3 years of probation, like $8,000 and change, $8,500 in victims compensation for the Native American man's chiropractor, because you got to get a chiropractor. Chiropractors. It just amazes me that insurance companies and judges care what chiropractors say. As a lawyer, we use chiropractors all the time. They'll write anything, and they're not doctors. They're not real doctors. They're scam artists who they're quacks. They terrible people. Off topic, but California, I believe, is going to start allowing naturopath doctors who are also absolute quacks to start doing very minor medical procedures like removing warts and moles off of non-facial areas of your body and prescribing some medicines. Anyway, complete and utter quackery that I'm sure lawyers are going to take complete advantage of to try to jack up the damages. The reason why it's important to use chiropractors is because they'll charge a lot and they'll give you opinion letters saying that the person needs ongoing care for X number of years and it's going to cost Y amount of dollars. And those are what are called special damages, medical damages. They are actual damages, and they're not like pain and suffering kind of general damages. And general damages are generally figured out based off of these special damages. So anyway, that was a complete off-topic ramble. My point was that News Now Houston is just trying to sensationalize an incident that happened 2 years ago and that the system already took care of by charging and convicting or having the officer plead guilty to and be sentenced with 3 years of probation. So there you go. Thing number 2 is Justin Pulliam screamed at the camera. I watched about 22 seconds of him screaming at the camera about how he's taken down the Good Old Boy Network and how the Attorney General determined that the Sheriff's Office violated the law of the state of Texas by not releasing some documents. But I'm not really going to talk about that because I only watched 22 seconds of it. I don't fucking care to watch Pulliam because he's just hard to watch. screaming at the camera, puffed up with self-importance, thinking that he's actually doing something. So what I'm actually responding to is the ginger snap. What the fuck is his name? James Freeman. He, or James Allen Springer, in case you really want to know his real name. My name is John Rietveld, by the way, because people think that I try to hide, but I don't really care. So what I'm responding to is Freeman asking if the sheriff is going to be charged with a crime, and obviously he's not. There are things that are, there are lots of laws on the books, and only a few of them are going to be in the criminal section, the penal code, whatever, however your state frames it, penal code, criminal code. Most things are going to be handled, if there is a penalty associated with them, they're going to be treated as infractions. They're just going to be fines. They're not criminal in nature. You don't get charged with them. Some administrative body will say you violated the Business and Professions Code, here's your fine, or something like that. You violated the government code. But the thing is that I seriously doubt there's going to be any fines levied against the sheriff's office. I'm sure what's simply going to happen is that the sheriff's office was going to be required to release the document, and apparently they were required to release the document. That's what happens. With my understanding of their Freedom of Information Act down there in Texas, is that you request the document. If they don't want to give you the document, then it goes to the Attorney General, the state Attorney General, to figure out whether or not that document is protected by one of the exceptions to Texas's version of the Freedom of Information Act. I don't know what it's called. And then once the Attorney General makes that determination, they'll send their determination to both parties, you and whatever agency is not releasing the document. And then the agency will have to release the document, or else you can proceed further. But the point is that it's not a criminal matter. Violations of the law aren't always criminal in nature. In fact, generally speaking, they're not. Like, it's a violation of the law to not honor a contract. It's a violation of the law to defame somebody. You know, it's a violation of the law to cause physical injury to somebody. These are violations of the law, but they're not criminal in nature. So I hope that clears it up. Third thing is, I was watching Timcast the other day. He's a reporter-ish. He's now a commentator, I guess. Tim Pool. And he had a live stream, and his little guest, they were talking about police accountability. Basically, they wanted to use a voucher system for the police. And his guest brought up qualified immunity. Tim Pool asked his guest what qualified immunity was, and his guest's like, oh, it's like where the cops, all they have to do is say they were acting, they're on their best behavior, they were doing what they thought was best, and then they get away with things, and that's not the way qualified immunity works. Qualified immunity allows the officer immunity to actions that aren't clearly established as being unlawful at the time the action was committed. And by clearly established, it means there has to be some sort of precedent, some sort of case law for that circuit, appellate case law, generally speaking, that deals with that particular activity closely enough that the officer should have been aware that it was a violation of law to do the action. It's basically, the officer can't be held liable for gray area kinds of things if it's not clear that it is on the illegal side of the gray, or unlawful side of the gray. And it also works, qualified immunity also works against accusations that are clearly not unlawful. If you accuse the officer of, I don't know, excessive force for doing an action that clearly wasn't excessive force, the officer will assert qualified immunity, and then you have the burden shifts to you to prove that that is a clearly established right of yours at the time. And it just basically prevents officers from having to spend a shit ton of money defending themselves against meritless claims. It's not just I thought I was doing good and so I get out of it. So I hope that maybe clears up some people who might also have the same misconception that the guy on Tim Pool had. Oh, he's got his boat with him. And finally, this is not one of the three. This is just for the people who've made it 10 and a half minutes in. The people on Discord are terrible people. And I made a mistake yesterday. I was looking at my list of subscriptions and I saw that a certain channel had been terminated. And I posted it up there and in Discord, that sucks, right? And someone asked why. And I hypothesized that it might have something to do with the fact that the person was exposing a victim. Extra Good Citizen had basically converted somebody who was kind enough to donate his bond. He paid the bond, he made the appearance, he got the bond back, and then he spent the bond money and didn't return it. And that's terrible of him, and he's a terrible person, but we all already knew that gadfly was a terrible person. So, I mean, it's not like, it's good that was exposed. That is a good thing to expose. But then, because these people on Discord are just terrible people, and they're as bad as the people that they rail against, and they have no sense of ethics, he then went on, this person from Discord, who I'm not drawing attention to because he names the victim, and he does multiple videos exposing the victim. And the victim is the victim. And in my opinion, it's unethical to expose victims. So I said that might be the cause for it, the cause for the channel getting terminated. Well, apparently the channel I was looking at was terminated a year ago for something different. And now apparently I'm a bad person because I didn't care enough to investigate to see if there was a second channel for this particular person. And I'm not going to apologize for me thinking that it is wrong of him to expose the victim and to put the victim up for public ridicule and shame when the victim is the victim. I think that's a terrible thing to do. And it saddens me when the lawyer has to be the one telling other people about ethics. I mean, that's a terrible state because lawyers are terrible people. And if you're worse than a lawyer, well, then shame on you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.